Try and reduce my input costs to meet that. I don't think you should try and reduce your overhead to meet your production. You need to produce more, not less.
You can't fertilize for last year or fertilize for what you think it's going to be, but that is a very good way of hitting the iceberg and speeding up the ship and going down.
$1 million a quarter, pretty simple math on not that much interest rates, and it's like, wow, that's not that much return on investment, right?
I'm trying to reduce my input costs to meet that. I don't think you should try and do that. You should try and reduce your overhead to meet your production, to meet your production costs, not the other way around. Like, I think you need to produce more, not less. So
Right.
Cutting the production costs is not going to work as far as cutting rates, I guess, is where I'm going with that.
That is a tough one, though, because you do start looking at both sides of the equation, right? And thanks for backfilling there and unpacking that a little bit there, Chris. I appreciate that.
That
And
can
Romy,
be, I totally get that. And I literally just said that when I was talking, that you can't fertilize for last year or fertilize for what you think it's going to be, but that is a very good way of hitting the iceberg and speeding up the ship and going down. You know what I mean? So I agree. Yes, overhead costs, machinery costs, try and bring them down. Just sort of speaking out of both sides of my mouth here, because there's no repercussions.
Yeah, nothing can happen. You're safe on the internet at home. No bad guys are going to get you. But Norman, Jay, what are you guys thinking? Who wants to jump in?
I mean, I think we're not a whole lot different on production costs. I mean, I've pretty much pared down. I would say I started last year paring down things, not so much on the actual amount of inputs, but just more on efficiency, and say, instead of buying prepackaged chemicals, buying base components and mixing them together and things like that. And I think, for me, where I am, that's pretty paramount, because we're not going to get the rain. So trying to have super efficient, fertilizer and chem usage is super important for us in particular, because I'm just not going to get it. And that's why I grow mustard and not canola, right? I don't get canola rains down here. If I'm thinking about it, I think that equipment is probably one of the most difficult things for us right now, because I think it's hard to say, okay, I'm going to step back on equipment, or I'm going to try and do something different with equipment, because right now I think that's just an equity bath that's going to be really hard to swallow. And right now, I mean, for us, I'm seeding, right around 11,000 acres with 176-foot drill, and taking that off with two 780s with 40-foot headers. So, to go to something different and take an equity bath or try and go smaller would be, it is pretty difficult. So I think that's probably the spot that I've looked at the most, to try and figure out what can I do differently here. And I don't think there's a very good answer than just weather the storm.
Well, and it's probably better to dance on a 9RX 830 with 913 horsepower max, 830 horsepower rated John Deere 18-liter engine with power shift transmission technology than an old broken down Versatile.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, bud. I do like to make the wheels go up and down the field when I need to, which is sort of, because I don't have, multiple units. So keeping things running is pretty important. But I guess my point, like I said, is to downgrade from that I would be, probably losing from what I have now, would probably be a losing proposition on the equity front. That wouldn't feel very good.
Norm, did you want to weigh in on that? What's keeping you up at night, the pressure point?
Yeah, I would say, every area is going to be different, but boy, oh boy, these land values where we are, And a lot of places, it's a real gut check, right? If, we're kind of in transition mode, we've got a son farming with us and a son-in-law, and it's like, oh boy, at, $1 million a quarter, it's pretty simple math on not that much interest rates. And it's like, wow, that's not that much return on investment, right? So as land values go up, it's becoming it's harder to expand, right? And, you can hardly blame landowners that, maybe that the first generation was the farmers, and then it ends up transitioning to the next generation, and they're looking at it going, well, boy, oh boy, by the time we pay income tax on our land rent, there's not much left, right? So we're struggling to keep our size, and then that pulls our expenses over the top.